SCP-004, the 12 Doorways log entry, Level 5 clearance required. Agent Peterson, Overseer's desk. Date: Part 1, The Gateway. The lights in the briefing room buzzed softly, casting long shadows across the sterile walls. Agent Peterson sat alone in front of the terminal, his eyes fixed on the screen. He had been with the Foundation for years, witnessed horrors beyond comprehension, but there was something about SCP-004 that unsettled him more than anything else. SCP-004 was known colloquially as the 12 Doorways, a series of doors that, when interacted with, would lead to unpredictable, often deadly consequences. The origins of the doors were shrouded in mystery, as was their true purpose. All that was known was that the doors were somehow linked, connected to something ancient and deeply unnatural. Peterson hesitated before typing in the access code. He had read the file multiple times, but the words never seemed to lose their weight, their terror. There was a part of him that wanted to leave the file untouched, to let the mystery remain unsolved, but he knew better than anyone that ignorance would only lead to disaster. Access granted, SCP-04, SCP-004, Class Euclid. Threat level high. Containment procedures. SCP-004 consists of 12 distinct doorways, each located in separate facilities across the Foundation's network. Each doorway must be kept in a separate, high-security chamber with no external access. Interaction with SCP-004 is strictly prohibited unless authorized by Site Command, and all testing must be conducted under extreme supervision. Peterson's fingers hovered over the keyboard, reading through the file. Each door had its own set of horrifying traits, with no two doors appearing to follow the same pattern. The doorways were said to have been discovered during an excavation in an abandoned European castle, and subsequent tests had revealed their potential for devastation. He continued to read, "Testing has shown that each door, when opened, leads to a different location, often one that defies the known laws of space and time. Some doors open to alternate dimensions, others lead to violent, hostile environments. However, one constant remains. Any entity that passes through these doors is never seen again or returns irrevocably altered." A chill ran down Peterson's spine. The phrase irrevocably altered had haunted many an agent. The last entry in the file was the most unsettling. Subject: Dr. entered door 3 during a scheduled test. Upon re-entry through the same doorway, Dr. was found to have undergone a complete transformation, now classified as host subject. The subject displayed abnormal growth patterns and an increased rate of cognitive dissonance. Part 2. The first test. The soft hum of the terminal was the only sound in the room. Peterson was jolted from his thoughts as the door to the briefing room opened, and Dr. the lead researcher in charge of SCP-004, entered with a grim look on their face. "We need you to come with us, Agent Peterson," Dr. said, their voice tight with tension. "SCP-004 has changed." Peterson felt a knot form in his stomach. He had been hoping for a day without more incidents, but deep down, he knew it was only a matter of time before something went wrong. He followed Dr. down the long, sterile corridors of Site, the rhythmic sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. The air was thick with an ominous feeling, a sense of dread that hung heavy in the walls. They reached the secure testing chamber, where the first of the 12 doorways was stored. It was encased in a massive steel containment unit, with several armed guards posted outside. The door itself was unlike any normal door. It appeared ordinary at first glance, a simple wooden structure, its surface smooth and polished. But as Peterson gazed at it, he felt an uneasy pull, a strange compulsion to open it. "What's happening?" Peterson asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. "It's active," Dr. replied. "Door 1, it's behaving differently. The doorway keeps shifting. It doesn't stay in one place." Peterson's eyes widened as he approached the door. The wooden surface seemed to shimmer, the grain of the wood warping in and out of view. As he got closer, the air grew colder and an almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the walls. "Get back, Agent!" Dr. ordered. "We've had a few incidents already. Testing has been suspended until we can determine what's causing this anomaly." But Peterson didn't move. He couldn't. He felt drawn to the door in a way that defied logic, as though something was calling him, pulling him in. Suddenly, a crackling noise pierced the air, followed by a low growl that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the door. Peterson's heart raced as he turned to the researcher. "Open it," he said, his voice steady despite the rising fear. "I need to know what's on the other side." Doctor looked at him, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "You don't understand, Agent Peterson. No one has ever come back from these doors. And if they have, they don't come back the same." Before Peterson could argue further, the door shuddered and creaked. The hum grew louder, more insistent, until the door swung open by itself with a violent thrust. A gust of cold wind rushed out, followed by a brief, unsettling silence. "Step away from the door now!" Doctor shouted, but it was too late. Peterson had already crossed the threshold. Part 3. Into the Unknown. The moment Peterson stepped through the doorway, everything changed. He was no longer in the familiar testing chamber. Instead, he found himself in a vast, sprawling landscape that defied all understanding. The sky above him was an eerie shade of green, and the ground beneath his feet seemed to ripple like liquid. In the distance, towering structures, monolithic and incomprehensible, loomed over the horizon. The air was thick with a strange metallic scent, and the very atmosphere seemed to hum with an unsettling energy. As Peterson looked around, he realized with a jolt that the landscape was moving, shifting. It was alive. The ground beneath him began to quiver, and he instinctively took a step back. But it was too late. A low growl erupted from the distance, followed by a screeching sound as something large and shadowy began to emerge from the depths of the landscape. Peterson's heart pounded in his chest as he instinctively reached for his weapon, but he realized too late that it was no longer at his side. His hands trembled as the shadows drew nearer. Then, suddenly, a voice, faint and distant, whispered through the air. "You are not welcome here." The shadows closed in, and Peterson's last thought was that he had made a grave mistake. Part 4. Transformation hours, or perhaps days, passed before Peterson regained consciousness. His surroundings were no longer the shifting landscape of the alternate world. Instead, he found himself back in the testing chamber, lying on the cold floor. But something was wrong. His body felt different. His limbs were heavier, and his vision blurred at the edges. As he tried to sit up, his movements felt sluggish, disjointed. He looked down at his hands and froze. They were no longer human. The fingers had elongated, becoming something unnatural. The skin was covered in a strange metallic sheen, as though his body had merged with the very material of the door. He reached up to touch his face, but what he felt was not his own skin. Instead, there was a smooth, cold surface, almost like metal but warmer to the touch. "Agent Peterson," a voice said softly from behind him. He turned to see Dr. standing at the doorway, their expression unreadable. "You've been integrated," the researcher continued. "You've become part of it. The door's influence, it's spreading, and now you're connected." Peterson's breath caught in his throat. He could feel it, too. The strange, insidious connection, pulling him deeper into the network of the doorways. The transformation was not just physical, it was mental as well. His thoughts were beginning to change, becoming twisted, fragmented, as though something else was taking root in his mind. "You're not the same anymore," Dr. said quietly, "and you can't go back." Peterson reached out, desperate to break free from whatever force had taken hold of him, but it was no use. The doorways had claimed him, and soon he would become part of their ever-expanding network, a host for whatever alien intelligence lay behind them. But there was no escape now. SCP-004 had won. End of log entry.